Howdy, folks. Craig Lavati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science. This is, of course, the HMNS Beyond Bones podcast, available on all sorts of podcasting platforms. That one, and probably that one, and definitely YouTube, because if you're watching us on YouTube. How you doing? What's going on? My name is Craig Lavati, and as always, my co-host is Kat Havens.
How are you doing? Good to see you guys again.
Good. Kat, we are good. It feels like I haven't seen you in 1,000 years.
I know, just 1 week off, and I was like, when is the last time I did a podcast?
1 week off.
Like a year ago.
I forgot what you looked like. I forgot what you sounded like. I was like, Kat, who? What? Who? We're interviewing a cat. What's going on? Today's show is cool. We are talking to Karen Farber from the Buffalo Bayou Partnership. Karen, how you doing?
I'm just fine. How are you?
We're good. We love talking to people who are involved in all of our local landmarks and parks, and definitely Buffalo Bayou. Well, that's up there. You can't miss Buffalo Bayou, guys. If you live in downtown, it's your preferred body of water, and it's part of Karen's job and her team to let people know all the cool public programming that goes on around Buffalo Bayou. Karen, how cool is it to work on beautifying the bayou?
It is such a cool job. I have such a privilege to get to oversee Buffalo Bayou and connect people with the waterway. And there's so much that we're doing. So, yes, downtown, but also we have three sectors that we work on. Buffalo Bayou downtown is one of them, but also Buffalo Bayou Park, which is well known by so many Houstonians, and Buffalo Bayou East, which is where our upcoming master plan is going to unfold. So that's east of downtown to the port.
Okay.
Edo, as the kids call it.
Yeah, well, Edo and beyond, yes.
Edo and beyond. Buffalo Bayou Park, obviously you can't be a proper Instagram user in Houston if you don't take a picture from inside Buffalo Bayou Park with that amazing skyline behind you. That is one of the most, I hate the word, but it's one of the most iconic vistas we have in Houston.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
Share with us just sort of like, I'm sure you guys are just inundated with just the popularity of the park too, especially when newcomers come to Houston and they between Herman Park, Memorial Park, Buffalo Bayou Park, we're parked up.
And a lot of those parks are on bayous. I mean, we share Buffalo Bayou with Memorial Park too. So that's a really nice connection that we have to them. It's a shared waterway. One thing that was pretty remarkable over the past couple of years was that when COVID came along, public space became even more important.
Yes.
So if Buffalo Bayou Park was crowded before, it was even more crowded once people were, really needing to get out of their homes and go into outdoor space and gather in outdoor space. So Buffalo Bayou Park's been incredibly popular over the past couple of years.
And every time I drive through over there, and I know Kat can probably agree too, every time I drive through, it feels like there's something new over there. Like you guys are finishing construction on something,
Absolutely.
There's some sort of event going on.
New
it's being utilized beautifully.
Something looks like it's been beautified or better. And it always shocks me because it seems to happen really quickly. And I'm sure there's a lot of work and it doesn't happen as quickly as that, but there's always something, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, the maintenance of the park is our responsibility. So just a little bit about how Buffalo Bayou Partnership works in Buffalo Bayou Park is that, we constructed this beautiful park that reopened to the public in 2015. And we did that with many, many partners, one of which is the city of Houston. So Buffalo Bayou Park resides on city land, but we function like a conservancy for Buffalo Bayou Park. So in that respect, we maintain the park alongside the city of Houston. So we have a maintenance team that's out there doing all of the things that you're describing, beautifying and planting and replanting and clearing and watering and all of the things that happen out there in Buffalo Bayou Park. That's largely our team. But in terms of the events and things that you see happening, you also mentioned programming and events. Those are a combination of different entities. We do a ton of programming, Buffalo Bayou Partnerships, just engage people with the park and the bayou. And we really try to get creative about that and listen to what people want to experience in the park. I'm in charge of our public art program. So that's yet another thing that's happening in Buffalo Bayou Park and all along the waterway across our 10 miles, which we can talk about. But then the other thing that happens in Buffalo Bayou Park is that we rent space. So sometimes you'll see things happening like, festivals in the park.
Right.
And many of those are not ours. Many of those are festivals that are held as rentals. So, that downtown skyline can be yours.
Yes.
For
yes.
a fee of
There are
sorts,
weddings at the waterworks and,
oh, that's cool.
baby showers and all sorts of other things, festivals. We have a beautiful stage up above the Buffalo Bayou Park cistern that can be rented as well. So yeah, some of those things are just things that happen because, regular Houstonians want to hold their event in the park, and that is possible too.
And all the money taken in for the rentals and things like that go back or invested back into the park, which I think is that kind of cool part of the sort of paradigm that the way it's set up is
Yep.
Yeah, that's
It helps support our mission. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I think a lot of younger people here in Houston, if I want to call myself a younger people, some of our first experiences with Buffalo Bayou Park was obviously going back to like the Free Press Summerfest events that we had years ago. Definitely all of the concerts, the July 4th events, things like that. And then the cistern too has just been a shot in the arm for y'all as well. Cause I know that, like you said, that space above it, I mean, when the weather's good, and I mean, let's see, it's April 27th at 1:24. The weather outside right now is amazing. And we should have recorded this Zoom out at the park because I know right now the weather's great. When the weather's good, the park is bumping, and that is just, it's such a good, and also too, if you're lucky enough to have a downtown residence, you can also look back there west and see just the park. And it's just one of those really, it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And you said you worked with the public art. Do you do anything with the lock bridge? Or is that sort of like a guerrilla thing?
Not ours. It is a guerrilla thing that happened, as many Houstonian manifestations are. It's just one of those things that the public opted to do. And so far, so good, although there's a certain point at which that bridge will become too heavy to bear all of those. So I didn't realize that, okay, that's obviously you guys did say, hey, everybody come put these locks on this bridge and the gate. It sort of happened organically, like you were saying. It happened organically.
Just like organically or in spite of, it's sort of things just happen. Like the main thing I was thinking of was the Be Someone graffiti on 45. That just happened. Obviously there was people that did that. But then I even remember years ago, I don't know if this predates you over there, but somebody yarn bombed the yarn bomb at
we invited that. Yes.
Okay.
We invited that. And we actually did something recently for the first one does predate me, but we did have yarn bombing across the Rosemont Bridge in Buffalo Bayou Park, a beautiful pedestrian bridge.
Yes.
That we invited for the 5th anniversary of the park, which we just celebrated in 2020.
I need to know what a yarn bomb is.
Bridge was yarn bombed.
I can't be the only one that doesn't know what a yarn bomb is.
Karen, can you explain to Kat what yarn bombing is?
It's temporary artwork. Well, it can be permanent, but it's mostly temporary artwork where someone comes and weaves something out of yarn. But in the case of the 5th anniversary, we had a group, they're called, I think, Urban Knitting, and they came out and they wove this beautiful sort of landscape along the bridge with animals and different things and different wildlife and plants that you see in Buffalo Bayou Park. So it was really, really cool.
Pictures up. That sounds amazing. Yeah. That sounds awesome. Kind of almost like a mandala where they do this work and put all this work into it, and then eventually it has to come down. So it's more about the process and the moment of being able to enjoy it, and then it disappears.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool.
There's so tell us about some of the ways that the public out there, besides art, the public, if somebody's listening to this or watching this, how you can beautify the park or how you can help.
Involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a bunch of different ways, and we do get that question a lot. There is one thing that without a doubt compels people to ask how they can get involved and how they can help. And it's when we post pictures of the trash in Buffalo Bayou, which, is a big thing. Buffalo Bayou was designed to collect drainage from the city of Houston. So that is part of its design. But along with, collecting whatever runs out of the streets comes a whole lot of trash. So most of the trash that we see in Buffalo Bayou comes from our roads and streets, as I said, our freeway overpasses, all of those places. So, of course, the first thing is don't litter and properly dispose of your trash. It's the first thing, but it's also the second and third thing. I mean, this is a really, really big thing. But the other thing is that we have a program called our Clean and Green program, where 5 days a week, we have full-time staff who go up and down the bayou collecting trash. We have a custom-made boat called the BioVac that functions like a vacuum that sucks up trash. It was designed by an engineer for Buffalo Bayou, so that is our BioVac that we use, and we're actually going to get a new one soon.
A fleet. You have a fleet of them.
Well, I think the other one is going to get retired, unfortunately. Okay. I wish we could have a whole fleet. But they suck up about 2,000 cubic yards of trash out of Buffalo Bayou every year, which gets collected. So what you could do to get involved in that is, while we wish we could take a whole bunch of volunteers out there on the water, really the main thing is don't litter. And if you'd like to support our program, there are ways to support our program that are listed on our website. So, become a member of Buffalo Bayou Park, donate to that program. All of those things help us do the work that we do.
So we don't let kids and helpers get in the water. I'm going to date myself here. I climbed around in one of the offshoots of Buffalo Bayou near my house as part of a camp in the filthy water, picking up trash. We don't let people do that anymore.
No, we do want that. I mean, I'm not saying to do anything dangerous, of course, but we do want every single citizen in the city of Houston can help pick up trash at any time.
Oh, sure.
You don't have to be a part of an organized volunteer event to do it.
Right.
We do have a wonderful and robust volunteering program, but even if all those sessions are full, that doesn't mean that somebody can't go out on their own and pick up trash any day.
Just if you're walking, bring a plastic bag with you and just throw stuff in it. Yeah.
And we started storing biodegradable plastic bags in our visitor center in Buffalo Bayou Park. So if someone wants to come by and get one from our wonderful visitor center staff, they will give you a biodegradable bag and you can go out and pick up trash anytime.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that.
And pick up after yourselves too, folks.
For sure.
Yes, please.
There's that's another thing too that, bringing up the trash issue is that obviously when it floods in Houston, and Harvey was the great, the last major flood that we had. We have major floods all the time, but that was the last major one that really did test Buffalo Bayou Park. And when I was a reporter, I remember driving by over there, and that water system really did a lot of work. That was one of our saving graces, and keeping that clean. That's job one too, because that garbage then gets back out of the streets and it clogs up that way, and because everything flows obviously to the Gulf. So if you keep Buffalo Bayou clean, you're keeping the Gulf clean.
You're helping to do that. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because out to the Gulf. And so even, my son was learning about our oceans in science class, and it's like, how do you keep trash out of the ocean? Well, start with Buffalo Bayou if you live in Houston,
Or start by not throwing it on the street, which ends up in the bayou, it's sort of a multi-pronged or multi-layered a system for sure.
And all of the little things that you guys have built along the way too, all that stuff is basically built to flood. I understand. Like it's built to withstand, because if anybody has ever driven by Buffalo Bayou Park in the midst of a major flood, you can't see the park, and it is just covered, but it bounces back reasonably quick. It takes a few weeks to dry out, but it's very resilient.
Yes. And of course, resiliency being a key word in the city of Houston, and for us at Buffalo Bayou Partnership. It's something that we're thinking about as we head east, because, fortunately, Buffalo Bayou East. So this is east of downtown, from the 59 overpass adjacent to downtown all the way to the Port of Houston turning basin, where we have a master plan to develop that waterfront into, vibrant green space for the communities east of downtown. But that part of the bayou, it doesn't flood as much. So those neighborhoods are not as low lying for the most part. And the bayou is much wider east of downtown. So this is just sort of a point of interest as we develop, is that, folks think Buffalo Bayou, flooding. Well, absolutely, that resiliency is a key part of what we're doing, but we're also really trying to, develop parts of town that flood less too, and into, being much more vibrant, much more, much more outdoor active gathering space.
I'm a native and I don't really know much about the east portion of Buffalo Bayou. I guess mine is pretty much just that inside the loop, that area there. That's the one I'm the most, that I live next to. And so I'm always, working around there. But yeah, the east, what's different over there, I guess? Is it just more industrial, or y'all are trying to change that, obviously, and make it a little bit more residential, more
a green space,
homier?
Well, actually a lot of it is very residential. So if you think of the neighborhoods east of downtown, you mentioned Edo, and then beyond that, the greater East End is a densely residential neighborhood, but also industrial. And then on the other side of the bayou, the Fifth Ward neighborhood. So greater East End on the south side and Fifth Ward on the north side. And these are both communities that are historic and intact communities. And then, but just people are living around and amongst all of this industry as well. So
looking at the map here, I'm checking it out now.
Is it near Galena Park, Craig or Karen? Is it
Galena Park? Not quite.
Not quite that far. Okay.
Right.
But you're talking like the Denver Harbor area. We're talking
on the north side, Denver Harbor.
Okay.
Yes, and Magnolia Park on the south side of the bayou, all the way to the turning basin. So that's essentially Second Ward on one side and Fifth Ward on the other side. And so these are residential communities, but also, as I said, industrial. And one of the kind of cool things is that there are all these industrial relics over there that are really iconic to those neighborhoods that we can retain
and incorporate
into into the way these spaces are designed. So the spaces will really make those, the way that we design the green space is to sort of make those landmarks, really focal points for these communities too.
And you're kind of honoring the history of these communities at the same time providing kind of like a fluffing up of the bayou area and a space the community can share. That's super cool. And Houston's not always the best at saving historical structures, so I think that's a great plan. That's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the cool things is we get to master plan this stuff. So we, as an organization, we acquire all this land through various means, and then we master plan it so that you can think through, okay, this is going to be here, this is going to be there, and, also try to retain the residential nature of the neighborhood and really allow existing community members to stay where they are.
Because that's such a diverse area too. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody that. I mean, that's like that area over there. Definitely. A lot of my friends own businesses up and down Navigation and the Harrisburg area over there too. And there's so many cool little hole in the wall taco places and just all these really interesting shops and everything that it's definitely, I don't want to say it's one of those spots in Houston that is definitely getting its close up now. And it's really nice to see that. It's funny. I think it's sort of us, I don't say us young people again, but it's the younger people, I think, that are recognizing that and understanding that we don't need to bulldoze this history. And that, like you said, we can retain some of these things and repurpose them. And it's not just about, clearing this land and making something, it's about reusing things. And that's a big point of, I think that's always been a big point of concern for people on the East End. And now it seems like it's happening.
Yes, that reuse, that reimagining of spaces. Yeah.
We were talking about that with the Astrodome when we talked about the Astrodome, how it was the young people people that I'm not young, by the way, our little going joke.
You are.
Me neither.
It's our young people that actually cared more about preserving the Astrodome, even though they've never really interacted with it in the same way as older generations had. But it's really this kind of, younger set that is really interested in kind of retaining these historical and these things that kind of define different areas. So I think that is a really cool thing to say about you guys, Craig.
Another cool thing too is that I know that you could probably speak to this as well, Karen, but when you look at the Houston skyline from the east, it looks like a completely different city.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's
a totally different perspective. It's true.
I've seen views of that. I'm like, I live there. That's weird. Like, because you see that whole little thing, and then you can't discount either the Port of Houston and how extremely important that is to Houston's everything. You know, that is so important to us, and everybody is connected to that. What's the next big project, I guess, for you guys? Look even farther down the road. What is it going to look like in 10 to 15 years?
Well, so this master plan is, you're talking about the same timeline really that we're talking about for the master plan. So over the next couple of decades, that transformation is going to happen. It's pretty large in scale, because we're talking about, multiple square miles east of downtown. So that is the thing that we're working on now. And, this is a whole different endeavor from building Buffalo Bayou Park, which in itself was a behemoth project that we think turned out really great. And I think a lot of Houstonians really enjoy.
Yes.
But then, this is an altogether different nature because this is not, for the most part, city land. So each little stretch of trail that we want to construct is a different situation. Either it's a piece of land that we Buffalo Bayou Partnership have acquired, or it's someone else's land that we're asking for easements to go over the property to create contiguous trails. But this whole idea of connectivity all the way from Shepherd Drive to the Port of Houston Turning Basin and back again, that's the goal. So to create contiguous trails all the way, so that Houstonians can traverse that entire part of town, or it's multiple parts.
Like
of town.
our own little Appalachian Trail, but much shorter.
These waterfront trails.
I could walk that one.
So the goal eventually would be able to get on a bike, maybe this bike here, and then I could ride from downtown area all the way to, say, San Jacinto Park. Or roughly that area.
Oh, that's cool.
Roughly that area.
That's very...
And back again. And back on the other side. And I mean, not just back again on the same trail, but on the other side of the bike.
Okay, north side, yeah.
Make a loop.
Make a loop. So that is what we're working on. And then within that master plan, and you can see the master plan on our website too, but within that master plan, there are all these landmarks that we were talking about. So, repurposed industrial sites, things like the former gravel silos that you see along Buffalo Bayou, close to Nagel Street. So that's a little closer to downtown. But also we have an incredible site called Turkey Bend. It's known as Turkey Bend right now. It was a former barge terminal that will be transformed into a public space. Tony Marone Park, which is currently a fairly large neighborhood park, is going to double in size. So it will be double the amount of green space for the East End community and Fifth Ward community to use, because there will be pedestrian bridges as well that go over Buffalo Bayou to connect neighborhoods to one another. So people on the Fifth Ward side of the bayou will be able to cross over and use the amenities on the East End side as well. These are all really exciting pieces of the master plan. And even farther out than 10 years, there will be other projects that are part of that master plan that we will tackle as well. So it's going to be a huge transformation for our city.
And one of my favorite features, and I always loved writing about it, was the wildlife that lives along Buffalo Bayou Park. And it's always fun to see somebody post on Reddit or IG or something like that, and they'll post, "I didn't know that alligators lived in Buffalo Bayou." Like, yeah, a lot of stuff lives there. There's always people that are, catching and releasing alligator gar or some sort of strange fish that makes its home over there.
There's some really fun stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So alligators are, people talk about alligators a lot, but one really fun thing, Texas Wildlife, I think it was, has put some cameras out.
Yes.
Night cameras. Have you seen any of that footage?
Yes. Trail cams.
We just love it. We're starting to make these little edits that we can post on our Instagram and, on our different social media channels of the wildlife that we see on that footage. So we've seen some really great interactions. That's the really fun part, is when the beaver is wandering up the bayou. There are a couple of beavers, and then on video.
That's so cool.
The beaver's wandering up, and then a night heron comes along, or there are these interactions that are really, really, really fun to watch.
If you go to the Bat Bridge, you'll see night herons kind of like lurking around and looking for dinner, and that's the Bat Bridge is that's part of y'all's system as well.
Yes, the Bat Bridge, just as robust of an emergence as you might see in Austin. But, and most nights, especially on a seasonal basis, you can go out there and see the bat emergence at sunset. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, we do some adult trips associated with the Bat Bridge. I'm not sure when the next one's coming up, but we definitely do that because it is such kind of a Houston.
Yes, that's right.
Thing.
Our show producer, Johnny, actually went out there and did a video over there. And I love it. Just it's that, when you're close, could you get that musky, what are the guano smell in your lungs? And you're like, because
in your lungs.
We have those. I don't know if Kat, if you know this, but we do have bats in the loading dock at the museum.
I know.
Yeah. And I remember when I first started over there, it was like, oh, wow. Okay. We have bats over here. We definitely are a science museum. There's bats in the loading dock. And
we have a lot of wildlife that likes to show up around here. It's just,
I was going to say another weird connection too that people probably don't know either about the alligators in Buffalo Bayou is that, U of H downtown, their mascot is the gator. And I remember people are always going, why is it a gator? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, no, there's actually gators in the park right there. And sure enough, you started seeing all these photos of the gators that actually live down there. So I don't know how big I'm sure they get pretty big down there. Just like I'd like to think I'm the resident gator expert around these parts now, because I covered gator. I had a gator beat when I was a reporter, so I know too much and not enough about gators. So
our offices are directly across from UH downtown.
So you see that, they have a little gator.
They have a couple of sculptures, yes, and paintings of alligators that we get to look at all the time. Yeah.
I like it.
Those are the only kind of gators I want to see.
I like it when people go, wow, Houston's so cool, so diverse, and all this stuff. And you have gators downtown. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, but that's also a testament to how you guys have just done so much good work over there to keep things safe.
It's also a testament to how all the water systems and waterways are connected. Somebody can just show up wherever they want.
River otters. You probably heard about the otters that were spotted in the bayou. During our regatta this year, we have an annual regatta. It's the largest regatta canoe and kayak race in the state of Texas. So during our regatta, one of our staff members was paddling next to a river otter that was just swimming along next to her boat.
Aww.
Very cute.
Johnny
says bull sharks, and I don't like that idea at all.
Yeah, I don't know about the bull sharks.
That makes me really frightened. I just had this conversation the other day. It's why I don't swim in rivers either, because there's sharks everywhere.
The rumor's gonna start.
I have not heard.
Somebody's gonna listen to this thing and go, "Oh, we heard." The way the telephone works is gonna say there's sharks inside Buffalo Bayou.
Right.
You're not supposed to. So
Let's dispel that right now. I have not heard that.
We have not seen the sharks.
I have heard about the otters.
So another thing too, people always ask if you can eat what you catch out of there. Say if you're going fishing, and that's a no, correct?
Well, I'm not an expert in that, so I cannot speak to that. I really wouldn't even want to speak to that question. I do indeed with my own eyes see people fishing sometimes in Buffalo Bayou, but I believe it's not allowed.
Right.
So I guess in terms of what you can and cannot eat, that I do not know.
Yeah. I mean, unless you just want to eat a big old plecostomus that somebody, dropped out over there, or the world's
don't release animals into the wild.
Yeah. No, because that's another thing. I remember they would see plecos that would somehow make their way from somebody's fish tank kid grew out of a fish tank, and all of a sudden you have a plecostomus that's just, rolling down the bayou.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure that's how a lot of things end up in a lot of places.
And that's a big no-no, guys. No
goldfish, plecostomus, any of those weird old
let's
things.
not do that.
Petco. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, it is the other stuff, the stuff that's more native. It really is a testament to, how we live in this, sort of urban jungle. I mean, it is, our offices are sitting right here on the banks of Buffalo Bayou in downtown. And we see a whole lot just from right here. And it really does sort of connect you with the nature that's all around us, this pretty lush natural environment that we live in.
And having grown up on the bayou, sometimes you get surprise visitors because you're so enmeshed and close to nature. Something shows up on your front porch or your office, and give it some room and let it be.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's why we see so much on those night cameras, is because this is it. This is a really rich place for animals to spend their time and find food and find privacy. And
exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, because I know, and obviously too, we can't leave this out while we still have time where we're here, because I know we're both running out of time here, but I know that the history that the Buffalo Bayou holds when it comes to Houston too, from the founding way back in, 1835, 1836, having that waterway right there was, there's this old photo I love sharing, and I know you've probably seen it. It was an Allen Brothers, you want to say like an advertisement, and it had Buffalo Bayou. It had mountains in the back, and it made it look like this is like amazing alpine area where you had like, this bayou, but they made it look more like a river. They made it look like this like robust river with mountains. You could go hiking and snow. It was snow and all these funny things. It's funny how but the bayou has been used in so many different ways. And a lot of people, when they come to town, they don't realize that we have this waterway right in the middle.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So Allen's Landing, that's actually where our offices are, and it's known as the birthplace of Houston. And that story is the old lore of how the Allen brothers lured people to move to the city of Houston. And it is really a fun story. But it is, Buffalo Bayou is the reason that Houston exists as a city.
Yes.
And why we were able to take over from Galveston after the hurricane, more or less, kind of made Houston what it is today.
Yes. And our entire bayou system, indeed. But, we like to think about Buffalo Bayou as sort of the vein through the heart of the city, because it really is the center of our city that we get to, interact with Buffalo Bayou and be along the waterway within.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, thank you very much for letting us talk and chat about one of my favorite waterways in Houston, Buffalo Bayou, and the park itself is just amazing. And if you guys are listening or watching this and you haven't been there, shut it off and go down there right now. It's a beautiful spot.
And Karen, what a great ambassador she is. I'm excited about it now, even more so. I'm going to go check out the website and then see, where I can join in somehow.
Thanks. Yes. And, we talked about the cistern briefly, but I'd be remiss to not invite everybody to come and see the Buffalo Bayou Park cistern if you haven't.
Yes.
I'm always surprised because there are a lot of Houstonians that don't know about the cistern, but it's this, former drinking water reservoir that's been turned into a public space, and you can come and take tours and learn about, Houston's infrastructure, but also see this just otherworldly space.
I've seen art shows in there too, like art.
So
use it. Yeah.
Yes, we do art installations in the cistern, and currently this year we're doing some concerts in there, like you mentioned, because the acoustics are unparalleled. So we've decided to do some sound experiments and concerts in the cistern that are ticketed. The next upcoming one is with Roco on May 7th. It's sold out, but we are taking a waiting list, and we'll have 2 other engagements of other Houston musicians, music groups in the fall. Oh, cool. So that's called Underground Sounds. But the cistern itself is just an incredible space, and people like to bring visitors from out of town to come and see it too, because it's so unique.
I'm so glad that I remember when it was first, I don't want to say discovered, but when they first realized that what they had there, I remember briefly there was this talk that people wanted to turn into a parking garage. And I was so glad that did not happen. I mean, we have plenty of parking garages, but that's just a really cool space that artists can have used, to utilized, and that's really cool. And that's another thing about Houston is our resiliency and our magnificent way of creating art out of things that otherwise would be used for pouring purposes. Yes, parking. So that's just really cool. Karen, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And and guys,
thank you so much.
Go visit the park, but don't eat anything from inside it. Please don't.
That's what Craig says.
Or put anything into it.
Yes. Just look at it and smile.
Exactly. Enjoy it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.